I feel like for those of us who are in the cybersecurity industry, especially for those of us who get to a position of leadership, we get targeted with so many people that we can become very distrustful. I used to work for Disney. You trying to get access to the mouse or do you want to talk to Malia? That can be really challenging to understand.
Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber to better understand their audience and turn them into loyal customers. Every week, Danny Wolf has brutally honest conversations with busy tech buyers about what really motivates them, the things they hate that vendors do, and what you can do about it. Get access to practical information on how to build authentic relationships with your audience. Listen to and talk with your buyers, and apply real customer insights to your strategies and tactics. You owe it to the world to unmute your mic. Are you ready?
As marketers, salespeople, vendors, we need to do things a little bit more ethically and morally for the sake of the industry. And, it'll sound utopian, but for the sake of the goddamn world. So I said, let's create a podcast and help other marketers who are maybe a little bit afraid to talk to or apprehensive to talk to security practitioners and just give that access to information and kind of teach them how to do it themselves. And I'm learning as I go, but I launched a month ago, literally a month and 2 days ago, and it's absolutely incredible how much insight I've gotten from just 6 conversations.
Yeah, that's
So
great. I'm glad that you started that because it's I feel like for those of us who are in the cybersecurity industry and especially for those of us who get to a position of leadership, or if we're at a fancy company with a big title, we get targeted with so many people that we can become very distrustful. And you kind of get like the squint eye and the side eye, like, all right, who are you? Are you really trying to talk to me because you like me as a human? Or are you trying to get access to, you know, for instance, I used to work for Disney. You trying to get access to the mouse or do you want to talk to Malia? That could be really challenging to understand. Um, and I've actually had some people reach out to me because they're like, "Oh, hey, I see what you're doing with your nonprofit, Cyber DEI. I also care about diversity. Hey, check out this product that I'm trying to sell to you." Oh, oh, do not try to tell me you care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and then sell me a product. Nope, that is a hard block. I will never talk to you again. No, do not bring in my passions and something like that into a sales call. Wow, was that
mhm.
a bad, bad entrance? Holy cow. Um, that's so I'm glad that you're doing this. It's like actually talking to like, hey, what do we want to hear? What do we want to talk about? How can you talk to us? Because we're already in cybersecurity, very suspicious people by nature. Are we getting fished right now? I don't know. Is this legit? So I'm glad that you're having these conversations. Hopefully this
Yeah.
helps other people learn.
Well, I can say that the feedback from the listeners has been overwhelming. We published, ugh, I don't even know, was it 8 or 9 episodes already? And
Mhm.
so the feedback has been overwhelming. The subscription base is growing. I just want to share that information for others so that we're a little bit more meaningful and thoughtful in what we're doing. So Malia, why don't you go ahead and tell me who you are, what do you do, and why the hell do you do it?
All right. So my name is Malia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I have been in cybersecurity, let's see, since my Navy days. So I'm a Navy veteran. For anyone who is listening, who is a veteran, I was a Sonar Technician Second Class, E5. I basically call myself a floating systems administrator. I was also in charge of all of our secret data on the ship and also in charge of making sure that everyone did their cybersecurity training. That was my first introduction to cybersecurity. That's not actually what I went to school for. Thought I was going to go to school and be a civil rights attorney. Really passionate about defending the rights of those who do not have the same privileges as I do. And recession hit. That sucked. And what's interesting is like my whole life I grew up My dad was an electrician, so I grew up tearing apart electronics and helped my dad wire houses. I also had a side hustle in college where I'd fix my classmates' laptops and their computers and things. But that pathway is never open to me as a woman. The only real computer classes we had at college was like computer programming. Spoiler alert: I suck at programming. I failed C++, I failed Java, and I was like, computers are just not for me, y'all. All right. So I was actually really thrilled. Like the Navy was where I got to get reintroduced into computers, but then doing it in a way that was like networking and like physical hardware and tracking the signal and data flow and all that. And I was like, hey, I'm actually good at this. So I left the Navy and I was like, hey, that cybersecurity stuff was really cool. I got to defend nation secrets. I got to defend, felt like I was doing a good thing in the world, like making the world a better and safer place. And I've been doing it since then. And I also realized, well, I didn't realize it then, but I knew then, okay, being a woman in the Navy, we're kind of rare. I think there's maybe 10% of the military is women. Um, I knew I was in a male dominated industry. Then I joined a male dominated industry in tech. And I've been involved with various nonprofits since I left the military. I still do work with a lot of veterans. I work with several veterans nonprofits, serve as a mentor, and also just as kind of like a career advisor for veterans leaving the military spouses too. They get left behind all the time. I also work with various nonprofits trying to get more women into cybersecurity, more women into tech. I'm wearing a T-shirt that says "Cyber Tech Girls," so shout out to my good friend Toby West, soon to be Doctor Toby West.
Nice.
Um, but it's a group that is trying to get more middle school and high school girls interested into cybersecurity, specifically from the places where schools don't have the best funding. We're talking inner city schools. We're talking schools from the now what they call the economically not as privileged areas. And I'm really proud. One of the girls that I mentored, gosh, when she was in seventh grade, she just entered college this last year, majoring in computer science. And now she is turning around and mentoring girls. So I'm really thrilled to hear that. Women's Society Cyber Jitsu is another group that I've been involved with for many years. Serve as a mentor there. Have helped many women get into the cybersecurity field. Co-founded a nonprofit a few years ago called Cyber DEI, Cyber Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, because we realized that it's the intersectionality of diversity that was really important because you can't necessarily just be fit into a box of, okay, I'm just a woman, but I'm also a disabled veteran. Where does that fit? I'm not necessarily welcome in the veterans communities, but I have a different experience than my fellow women. So we created that group. We just hit our 70th hire. So since we were founded in 2020, even though they were super small and grassroots, we've helped 70 underrepresented people get jobs in cybersecurity, and it's growing. So, do all of that, and I actually just left my job. Um, Interesting story there. I don't know if we have time to go into it today, but
Go for it. I mean, I have all
go
the
for
time in
it.
the world. Yeah, go for it. Let's hear it.
Um, so interestingly enough, I was at a consulting firm called RSM, and I discovered that 6 women were being underpaid compared to their male counterparts, and I taught them how to advocate for themselves. I talked to them about pay equity, I talked to them about compensation, and I showed them where to look up fair market value, where to look up proper pay, etcetera. I shared with them my pay as an example, and I taught them, okay, here's how you would go about advocating for yourself. Here's what you would say. Here's who you would talk to. Well, the firm didn't take too kindly to that. So I got a coaching call from my boss as well as another partner. Happened to be the only female partner in the firm. And I was told what I was doing was disruptive and that could be seen as something that could prevent me being promoted. Now, mind you, I was one of 2 CISOs in the firm. I actually helped co-develop the virtual CISO program in the firm. I was also one of the private equity leads. I had received countless accolades and praise for the work that I was doing. I had people that I was managing. I managed major projects. I was putting together, building cybersecurity programs. Again, pretty big in this firm. Overnight, I was pulled from projects. I was removed from meetings. I was left out of important emails. Um, I had passive aggressive emails and conversations from management. And I told him, I was like, I will not back down. I believe that this is right. What I'm doing is right. I had discovered that my colleague who had just joined my team, she was a fellow woman. She was going to start doing CISO work along with me, and I discovered that she was being paid $60,000 less than me. She lives in a high cost of living area. I live in a high cost of living area. Sure, do I have a little bit more experience than she does? Okay. Does that mean that I should be paid 60,000 more than her? Also, let me throw out there she's the only non-white person on the team. She's a black woman being paid $60,000 less than her white colleagues. This is wrong. I raised this. I was like, no, this is absolutely wrong. She should be making well more than that, at least within a pay band with us. This is ridiculous. And I was told, stay in my lane. Again, I got a coaching call after the first coaching call. I got a coaching call from the board, one of the board members. She also said what I was doing was wrong, disruptive, etc. I said, no, I'm not going to back down. I still believe we're just going to have to agree to disagree, because I still believe that this is absolutely wrong the way that we're handling things here, and I still believe that she should be fairly compensated for the work that she's doing. A few weeks later, I was put on a performance improvement plan, and again, one of the leaders in this firm, and up until this point had received nothing but praise. I was the leader and initiator in many projects. I built many cybersecurity programs for different companies, put out a performance improvement plan. They specifically called out, I am not allowed to discuss pay compensation with my colleagues. I took
Oh,
a screenshot of
goodness.
it because I was like, this is so illegal. And I pointed out to them, I was like, do you know what you're doing is illegal? Do you know that this is retaliation? Do you know that I'm protected under the law? And,
Yeah.
they just didn't care. So
Damn.
I quit in a with a I'm proud of my epic email that I sent them. I quit last week and I accepted a role at a new firm or a new company I'm really excited about. When I was interviewing, you know, I was when I was interviewing, I was looking at companies specifically for, okay, who actually gives a shit about diversity, equity, inclusion? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being the only one in the room. I'm tired of being the only one that gives a shit about this. Who is along with me for the ride? And that's one thing. And I was like, I know this market. I know that I'll be able to find a job very easily. And so I really grilled companies on their DEI initiatives. And I interviewed with the, more established companies, the larger companies, as well as startups. Startups blew the larger companies out of the water with their DEI programs. And I'm really excited about my new company. Um, they are, let's see, I think I can announce this. I started in a couple of weeks, but I'm going to go with Corvus Insurance. And one of my friends actually recommended me or referred me to the role. He joined my nonprofit, and he was espousing how amazing and inclusive they were. And everyone I talked to at the company, they were great. And even to the point where asking them, "Hey, what are your DI initiatives here? This is my top priority. This is what I care about. Sure, the tech is great. I love the tech. However, what's your DI?" And I love that the CISO and a few of the other people were like, "Hang on, we can't answer all of your questions. Would you like us to set up a time for you to interview our person who is heading up our DEI? Not that she can interview me, that I was going to interview her."
Nice.
And ended up having a 30-minute conversation with her that expanded to an hour, and I loved her fire, her passion. Seems like we were connected. And so I was like, all right, this is the company. If any of these other startups, like, all right, what of your all of your offers? Like, you have to beat this company, who also, like, they cover full transgendered, uh all medical care, which is amazing. I have some trans friends who are afraid to leave their jobs because they do not feel that they can get the same care elsewhere. And so I'm
Yeah.
always cognizant of that. I'm always on the lookout for that. They also have Juneteenth as an official holiday, and I was like, yes, this is a company where I feel like finally, all right, I think we're speaking the same language here. So I'm really excited to start that role. I will be manager of cybersecurity there, working along with the CISO, heading up their cloud security and security engineering. So super startup phase. Really excited to grow that out. So that was my long-winded, crazy tale that has just been I've had a wild journey the last I feel like few months, maybe years. I don't know, but really excited to see where it goes from here.
I love the story, and, first of all, I'm also sorry that, your colleagues had to have to experience that.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate to hear that it exists and is so prevalent. But congratulations to you on what seems to be a very epic win. I'm stoked for you for sure. I think this next question might be redundant. You tell me, what do you hate most about the industry?
Ooh, it might surprise you actually. I think I hate most about the cybersecurity industry the egos. There are a select few, and this is kind of it's one thing I like about cybersecurity is everybody most people seem to work as a team. And it's not like in the developer world where you could be heads down only focusing on your code and you don't have to talk to another human being maybe unless you do a code review. In cybersecurity you do have to reach out. You can't know everything. There are a select few individuals who I don't know. They seem very prima donna. That's not who I am. I don't like the tension. I don't like limelight. So it annoys me some people who are, and I hate this term too, like influencers. And I was like, it seems like all they do is just want attention. And I think in the cybersecurity industry, we do a bad job of like feeding into that. Um, and I think that can also weed out a lot of the other voices in the room. So then you'll have like some very strong personalities and very strong voices, and then you don't get to hear the other voices. And I try to be very cognizant of that, and I try to, I get asked to speak a lot, so I try to divert and I'll say, "No, actually, let me introduce you to somebody else. They haven't gotten a chance to speak yet. You should to hear from them. They have a really cool talk or whatever. Let me recommend them to you instead of me." And I wish more people in the industry would do that. If you've had your turn, share the mic. Shout out to my friend who founded Share the Mic at Cyber. Um, and so I think that's the that's the biggest thing is like there can be a lot of egos in this industry, and there shouldn't be. In cybersecurity, it should just be a team. We all work together. We all watch each other's backs, especially on the blue team side. Um, and I think that will also help alleviate some of the other issues, right? The pay equity issues, or you know, making a more inclusive and diverse and equitable work environment. Check your ego at the door. We don't
Yeah.
need that. And that
Mhm.
goes for both genders because I've had women be very egotistical, men be very egotistical. So that's equal opportunity being a shithead, I think, with the egos.
You're in a transition phase now, but as a CISO, you're still a CISO. You're now gonna move into an executive position. What is your one bleeding neck challenge?
Oh, the one? Oh, man. I
Well,
just got to pick one. I would say with all the different companies that I've worked with, it's always the number one asset management. I know it's so simple or it seems so simple, but every company I've walked into where I need to build up their program or whatever, at Hulu when I was called up to build their vulnerability management program and head it up, first thing I asked was, "Okay, how many assets do we have at Hulu?" Crickets. No one knew, and I was like, "Y'all, you've been around for a long time. You don't know how many assets you have." So, first thing I did was, like, a several month asset discovery, and I'm pretty sure I got within 95% coverage, but that's the hardest one because that as soon as you take your eyes off of like one set of group and you get hit there, even if you're 95% covered and you have the best tools and products in the world, all it takes is one system that you don't have eyes on, that you don't know exists, that has an open S3 bucket somewhere or something, and you get popped, and now you are the head of security that, you know, lost Disney or Hulu or whatever. That was always my, like, what keeps me up at night was, "Please don't let Disney get owned. That'll be the end of my career in cybersecurity." So, asset discovery, it's the number one universal challenge across every organization I've ever worked with. And then after that follows, like vulnerability management, incident response, et cetera, et cetera. But if you don't know what you have, how do you know you can secure it?
Right. So given those challenges, then what is your goal?
The goal would be find some tool or some sort of system or some sort of solution that can do auto discovery because too many companies are still doing a manual process like spreadsheet of IP subnets. Come on. I want to see everything. So some sort of tool that will do auto discovery to take the weight off of those in infrastructure or those in security, um, and then make sure that that's continuously running. So then that way, as soon as a new asset or a new thing will pop up, bam, we're going to automatically get our security tools on that particular thing, or we're going to identify what is this thing? Is this a rogue device, etc. Then that way, that can help out our defenders. Um, and hopefully, again, fingers crossed, it's always that budgetary concern. Hopefully, the folks in leadership will agree to purchase the tool and continue to fund the tool because that would be the secondary challenge.
Right. Take me back to the day when you first decided you needed to evaluate a new asset discovery tool.
I would say the most interesting one would have to be from when I was head of vulnerability management at Hulu. Um, Again, I said, I walked into the environment, asked, all right, how many assets are we dealing with? They were like, we're not sure, maybe like 30,000. Okay. I'm gonna verify that. We didn't really have a great asset discovery tool. The other problem was we're using multiple environments. We had a little bit of on-prem, we had AWS, we had some GCP, we had multiple different tools, multiple different dev environments. And so it's like, okay, well, how do you pull all of that together and how can I use one tool that's going to look at everything? And that was a big challenge because, okay, some tools exist out there like Jamf, right? That's like the number one for Mac devices. Okay, we had Mac devices. We also had Windows devices. We also had Linux devices. Okay, what can discover Linux devices as well? What can discover virtual machines? What can discover containers? So they're really like I was looking around and I was familiar with some tools and we had some existing like Avanti and Jamf. Okay, great. But what can also do container scanning? What can do container discovery? Also, too, if you think about the challenge with Hulu, is we were publishing containers and then removing them every second. So trying to get an eye on things and trying to get a handle on things, you need the continuous discovery. All of those things combined, I was like, all right, magical, wonderful tool. What exists that can handle all of these things? Or can I do a combination of tools? I ended up having to do a combination of tools again because having to work with different operating systems, work with different environments between cloud on prem, the different cloud environments, and had to marry that all, put that all into Splunk, and just build out this really long query and just hope for the best. And I was like, man, if somebody creates a tool that can like help all of this, because you figure all of that time that I spent doing that was a lot of time and a lot of my effort invested into just trying to do asset discovery. I'll tell you what, the 30,000 that they thought existed, I discovered 65,000. through that. And I was like, okay, that doubled what we thought was here. That makes me think like, did I get all of it because of having to pull everything together? Do I fully trust my janky query and Splunk? Yes. Maybe could I fix the syntax? Probably. So that's the sort of things that I needed to have it be continuous discovery. I needed the timing. I'm also the only person, I was the only person doing vulnerability management. So I also had to do the remediation. I had to help with AppSec and CloudSec. So I'm filling multiple roles and having to pull all these tools all together and hope that I have them set up right and hope that I have the query right, hope that all the API pools are actually working correctly. That's a lot of putting a lot of trust in tools, and we are suspicious people. So there was a lot of late nights with some beers at 10 p.m. checking my queries and checking the tools.
What changed that you decided now is the time to do what you did?
I think at first I was trying to use what tools existed. Because a lot of times when you're in a security leadership role and you step into an environment, you didn't build the environment. You have to do an initial evaluation and say, all right, what do we have right now? What is the company paying for right now? Because a lot of the times we might not have the budget to do a new tool, or we don't want to introduce a new tool to the environment. Let's evaluate the tool we have now.
Mhm.
So that's what usually it starts out with. And that was my most recent example was I just built a cybersecurity program for a casino this year, and they had nothing in place. They had some tools installed, misconfigured to all get out. And the people that were there, they were given the title of cybersecurity engineer, but had never been formally trained. Their former head of security didn't share any knowledge, so they were completely clueless. Basically, zero cybersecurity knowledge. They had some tools that were installed, but not configured properly. So the first thing that I did as a leader was like, all right, tell me what tools we have. I want to know which vendors we have. I want to know the contracts that we have with the vendors. I want to know the support that we have because also I'm working with security engineers who don't know how to use the tools. So I'm not about to introduce a new tool to the environment until we look at, okay, what tools do we have? What tools do we have installed? What did the company pay for first? Then I could start to evaluate what new tools can I use to supplement or replace tools that I think that we evaluate that aren't working. I actually discovered several tools that had never been installed properly and they weren't working anyway. So I was like, well, why pay for this tool if it's not doing anything, and we literally have 3 other tools that are doing the same thing, we're gonna eliminate that tool. Okay, let's introduce a better tool. Let's go and evaluate. I know my favorite tools, but let's evaluate and see what's on the market, what will work in this environment. So that's kind of like going back to Hulu. That's what I had to do first. It's like, all right, what is our environment? What are the tools that we have here first? What do we already have installed? What did the company already pay for? How can I use the existing tools in the existing environment to do asset discovery? If I don't think that that did the job and that was fully complete, okay, now I'm going to look at what can I use to supplement? What can I use to work in addition to the existing tools? And that's a lot of times across all the different companies that I've worked with and all the different roles that I've had in cybersecurity. It's always about what tool can be as a supplement to the main or primary cybersecurity tool. It's
Mm.
rarely a straight out replacement because ripping out a tool that's already embedded within the environment is such a pain. It's such a huge process. And we're already understaffed. We're already under budgeted. Um, like we just don't have the capability to do that. Everything that we want is like, how will this make our lives easier? How will this save us some personnel hours? How will this help us automate our lives?
I love that. That's, uh, most of us are, as marketers, think about how to run competitive displacement ads when in most cases you're not trying to replace those tools. They're
Mm-mm.
just complementing existing tools. And in many cases, your competitors are working in conjunction with your solution as well. So that's a key insight here for me at least, and I think others as well. Take me through what you did and thought about during the journey of researching a security tool for asset discovery. And how do you go about also separating the wheat from the chaff among those
Mhm.
endless vendors?
Yeah, so it's funny because I want to say, what was it, a couple years ago? I was at a conference. Sorry, pre-COVID, I should say that, like 2019, I think. Um, there was I attended a talk, and there was somebody that was going to put together like um a tech tool rating system or something. It was going to be like the what do they call it? The Yelp for tools. And I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea. That way, like, we can get actual." Because as I'm researching, I wanna see, like, give me the Yelp reviews. Like, who rated this as 1 star? Like, what were your challenges? What were your problems? Um, and I never saw that launch, and I'm really bummed out about that because that's something that what y'all may not know is that those of us in the cybersecurity industry, we talk about tools all the time. And we have our Slack channels, we have our Discords, and we have our trust circles, quote unquote. And we'll ask each other, like, hey, what do y'all think about I'll just throw it out there, Dark Trace, for instance. And like, do you like this tool? What were your challenges? Like, my client's using it and I'm not thrilled with them and I haven't heard good things about them. I haven't used them in years, but I didn't really like them. No offense to Dark Trace listening, but what do you think about it? Sure enough, I got a whole bunch of messages and a lot of comments of people like talking about their challenges and about what they ran into and like, oh yeah, you really need like some very intelligent and very experienced engineers in order to put this together. And I was like, well, that doesn't fit my client. They are brand new. I need a tool that is basically what we call them in the Navy sailor proof. Like I need to set it and forget it. They don't need an overcomplicated tool. So that was actually part of helping my decision to say, Dark Trace is installed within their environment. I think we're gonna eliminate it. In addition to reading, like, okay, going on other forums or reading different things. Because a lot of the stuff that I would read, okay, it's just marketing. So, no offense. I'm just like, "Okay, this is what you're telling me, but I wanna know, like, actual factual, how was it to set it up? How was it to operate it? What did it look like your day in and day out?" I wanna see all of that data because then I need to make an evaluation of, can my people actually utilize it? Can we actually use this in the environment? What's my sprint planning going to look like? How big of a project is this going to be? How many hours is this going to take to set up? What's the support that I'm going to get from the company? Shout out to Rapid7, where again with my client, Rapid7 was installed, and that was what they're using for IR and for incident response as well as vulnerability management. Both sides of the house, as well as their seam, all of it misconfigured, all of it not put together correctly. And Rapid 7, I had to bring down my mean CISO hammer on them. And they were great. They were very responsive. They set up, customer service calls, they set up training. That's exactly what I needed because I'm with just one person. I can't be in three different places at once training them how to set up this thing. I needed to rely on the vendor, like, what kind of support are you going to give me? I'm in a rush. I don't know if we are compromised or yet. I feel like the castle gates are wide open. I need to secure this right now. I need help right now. So that's another thing I look at is like, what kind of vendor support do you have? Do you have customer service reps who are going to be able to answer our questions within 24, 48 hours? Are you going to be able to walk us through the tool, or are you just going to send us a bunch of documentation and be like, figure it out? YOLO, good luck. Um, I don't have time for that. I need, in some instances, handholding because your
Mhm.
tool should work correctly, and I would trust the vendor to set that up correctly. So I look into all of that when I'm evaluating a tool because I know, you know, e- essentially, I would want an intern to be able to run the tool. That's kind of what I have in mind. Can I put an intern in front of a tool, in front of a console? Can they get the proper training? And can they eventually run the tool? Because I don't want to just have to always rely on senior or experienced engineers, you know? There's
Yeah,
a finite number of them in the industry.
100%. Again, so insightful. I wanna have a little bit of fun here. This is my favorite part of the session. It's called the shit list quickfire, and I wanna know what is the worst thing you've experienced from a vendor?
Oh, I think I said it at the beginning, but I have had this multiple times where a vendor will contact me and say, "Hey, I love what you're doing with diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm also supportive of diversity, equity, inclusion. Let me sell you this tool that I'm trying to advertise here." Oh no. That is a surefire way to get on my permanent block. I will blast you. I've put these vendors on blast and I'm like, "How dare you use diversity, equity, inclusion to sell your tool to me?" No. Do not ever, ever, ever mix those 2. It's great to sponsor a women's event or maybe a Blacks in Cyber event or something like that on behalf of your tool and just say, "Hey, our company cares, blah, blah, blah." Fine. Do not reach out to somebody and be like, "Hey, I care about pride. Check out this tool that has nothing to do with pride."
Yeah.
No, do not ever, 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 ever do that. You will get roasted. Same with the conflict. Like I was waiting with the Russian Ukraine conflict. I was waiting. Any vendor that came out and tried to say anything about the Ukrainian conflict and trying to sell their tool, I was like, nope. They are immediately going on my do not ever talk to list. Do not use human suffering in order to sell your tool. Holy cow. No, you are on my shit list forever.
Yep. This is why I like the shit list. Good stories. This is why it's the most fun part of the podcast. Okay, so then what's the alternative for people trying to engage with you?
That's always the challenge. So during COVID, I know everyone was just so flustered and just frustrated and overworked. And I have a lot of friends who work in marketing and sales at various tech firms. And, having been a founder of a company and tried to do the sales thing, spoiler alert, I'm not good at it. I feel like a weird, creepy, stalkery ex girlfriend when I do it. So props to all of you who sell things. This awkward nerd cannot do it. Um, I really feel for y'all because I saw a lot of posts from my fellow cybersecurity folks in the industry who were saying like, "Oh, I'm too busy. Don't reach out to me." Blah blah blah. That's not the solution. You're just being rude, and I think a good way is demonstrate your product. Show us how is this gonna help us. You know, make our lives easier. I just saw a demo for a product the other day that I was so impressed with. It was a 2-minute video, and it was the I think it was, the co-founder was walking through and actually did a live demo, showed the code behind it, showed how easy it is to integrate it, and then showed different challenges that can be overcome. So, it got basically in 2 minutes, I knew what the product did, I knew who the company was, I knew what it could integrate with, what problem it was trying to solve. And I knew that, it overcame some challenges that I was already predicting. I was like, wow, this was one of the greatest demo slash pitches I saw. It was only 2 minutes. That's all the time I have for. And I just happened to see this person posted it on LinkedIn. Didn't reach out to me, didn't reach out to anybody, was just like, put it out there. Here you go. And one of my buddies commented on it. That's how I saw it. And I was like, wow, I already sent that to, my new boss, the CISO. And I was like, we should take a look at this product. I was very impressed with this demo. He's like, this is great. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Hey, I've also been talking about these other products. So that's more like get more demos where it's to the point, it's short, and you know, have the engineers talk to engineers. I think that's a big one is when you have marketers and like I would recommend to anybody in marketing and sales is maybe study up on security plus. getting just a little bit of security knowledge and being able to speak our language, man, will that open doors to you more than anything else. Because if you start to talk to me about um, we'll say like asset discovery, and then I ask you a question about container scanning, and then you're like Tupperware containers, hey, you're gonna lose me. I'm just be like, you are not speaking my language. You don't understand my problem. I'm not talking about no Tupperware. Come on. I think that would be extremely helpful. And some of my friends who have gone and gotten their security plus and they're still in sales, like they were like, this is amazing. All of a sudden I'm way more successful. It's like, yes, you need to speak to nerdy engineers. We are awkward. We speak engineer speak. If you can speak to us, you might just get us. So that would
Yeah.
be one thing I would say for y'all is do a little bit of studying, listen to attend some talks, listen to what we're talking about, and that could be a way you can social engineer your way into our nerdiness. So,
There you go. That's it. You're actually the second person on the podcast that has recommended marketers and sales to pursue Security Plus. Ryan
mhm,
Cloutier actually uh, promoted that. Like he was one of the first conversations I've had on the podcast, and I had asked him, as marketers, what is one thing that we can do to improve ourselves and be more literate, and that was what he said. So
mhm.
love it. Now let's flip it on its head. What's one thing a vendor has done that has made you feel good?
Ooh, so that's tough. Because there have been a lot of good vendors, and I've liked them for different reasons. Again, if we talk about simply on the support side, there have been, um, like I said, shout out to Rapid7 for their amazing support, where we have a completely misconfigured tool and people who don't know how to use it, and I am one security person. They did a great job of being fast to respond to emails and being fast to get support as much as they're also slammed. So getting us support as quickly as they can. That was fantastic. On the other side of it, I mentioned earlier, you know, I don't I don't appreciate vendors who just reach out. They're like, "Hey, we care about DEI. Here's our tool." Shout out to Synac. Synac hosts a lot of women in cybersecurity events and diversity in cybersecurity events, and they're not trying to sell their platform at these events. They understand, hey, this is a particular space, and I really appreciate that. They have candid conversations, and um, they seem to actually give a shit about bringing in more security researchers and more pen testers who are women who will use their program and use their platform. And shout out to Ryan at Synac, where he reaches out to me and he knows to go to me for, hey, we're launching this women in at Synac program, or we have this thing. Can you share? Would you mind sharing it with your network? And I would love to have more people there. There we go. There's a vendor who I know that they attend different events. I know that they sponsor, like at RSA, they always sponsor big women's events, and they really make us feel welcome, especially in spaces where we're still vastly underrepresented. And that goes a long way. So if I remember that, I also remember the vendor that had the puppies for adoption at RSA. We always joke RSA is VendorCon. How about the vendors who were actually doing things where they were like, "Hey, we're not gonna have any swag or anything, but here's a token where, put your vote for what's your favorite thing, what's your favorite nonprofit of these two buckets, and then we're gonna donate money to this favorite nonprofit." And one was like Girls of Code, one was like Blacks in Cyber, one was
Yeah.
like Women in Cybersecurity. Wow. And all of them got donations.
Yeah.
Fantastic. You know what? That's a vendor who I think is gonna have um, more empathy. They're probably gonna care more about my problems at my company. They're probably going to listen to me. They're probably going to get me more support just because they had a different approach. So I remember those sort of things and they stick with me. And guess what? We all talk about this too. So I think having a different approach where it's a more caring and empathetic and getting involved and doing this outreach, that really stays, because then you don't just seem as like and I hate to use this term, it's slimy salespeople, right? No, it seems like, oh, these people actually, they actually give a shit about the community. They might actually give a shit about me and my problems. Okay, I might trust them a little bit more than your average company.
There you go. That's absolutely incredible. I love those stories. And this episode is going to go such a long way. I know it. We're literally at the end of time. And I really appreciate, you taking an hour out of your day to talk with me. I know an hour is a long time. So I do appreciate it. Before we sign off, what's kind of one thing you want to impart to us today?
Have patience. You know, I I must apologize on behalf of a lot of my fellow leaders of cybersecurity. A lot of us are tired. We don't have the teams. We don't have the budget. Maybe we're not in positions of leadership, or maybe we're not in positions of authority to purchase these tools.
Amen.
Um, Please have patience and also understand no means no. No means no in many, 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 many different contexts. No means no. If we say not now, please don't. Please don't continue. Maybe put a note in your calendar for like 6 months later to like then do a follow up and do a check in. But please don't harass us, especially women. Women, we seem to get harassed a lot, and it can feel very. It can start to feel kind of creepy. I've had
Yep.
many men, sales folks, who have reached out to me, and they have not taken no for an answer, and I am not one who uh, was very timid about that. So I've told them right away, do you understand the concept of no? And so please be patient with us and don't give up. I know that you're doing hard work. I know that you're doing jobs that I am terrible at. I've done it. So I'm very empathetic to what you do. And please don't take that some of us are very rude to you. I apologize on behalf of them. um, you know, just please understand where we're coming from. A lot of times
Yep.
our hands are tied,
Yep.
and it just sucks. So
Yep.
thank you for doing the hard work that I definitely don't want to do.
I appreciate it. It's meaningful to me that you are, as a buyer, as a security practitioner, are empathetic to us. That means a lot because we are exposed to a lot of negativity
Hmm.
from your kind, if you will. Most of us are just trying to do our jobs well, and this is my attempt at least. So I appreciate it, Malia. This has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much again. And you're always welcome back on the podcast. We're excited to have you on Dr. Dark Web.
I'm stoked. It's been a while since he and I have been on a podcast together. Again, it was like COVID. Just I think the last time we were at was maybe RSA. Might have been, yeah, RSA 2020. I think we're on a
Cool.
podcast, or maybe it was a Christmas podcast. I forget. He had a Santa hat on and had jingle bells in his beard. So I'm excited to meet up with my buddy again. It's
Awesome.
always a great conversation with him.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Malia.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.